Hey, welcome everyone to Southwire Solutions University. We appreciate you joining us today to talk a little bit about some ways we're going to do some material handling. We're coming to you today via the magic of the internet from our Southwire Solutions University here in Carrollton, Georgia. And we're also coming to you from our West Coast Training Center out in Los Angeles. So again, magic of the internet makes all this stuff possible. We're on Zoom and we're on YouTube today. We're on YouTube Live, so thanks for all of you for joining us. My name is Johnny Sellers, and we have my counterpart who's on the West Coast, Joe Fawcett, that's going to be with us today as well. We're going to go through this material handling, and if you have questions during our class today, if you're on Zoom, chat your questions, and at the end we'll save some time and address the questions you have. If you're on YouTube, put it in the comments, and we're monitoring that as well. All right, so let's get started and discuss what we're talking about today. If you were with us on Monday of this week, we covered some material handling and all the ways that we're going to manage reels of wire on our job sites, how we're going to deal with getting it there and getting it there safely and making it work for us. And we're going to focus on the how and the why and the what of what we're doing, less about the technical stuff, but we want you to give you an understanding of how to apply some of the things that we do to your job site. So today, we're going to focus on two things. We're kind of going to focus on our Southwire SIMpull Reel, and we're going to focus on Southwire SIMpull Flanges. These are two methods of moving wire around on a job site. So where would we be using either of these two devices? I'm going to focus on the SIMpull Reel first. Where would we be using this? Well, if I'm out in the mud and the dirt somewhere, I'm not going to roll this around. If I'm out in the gravel somewhere, I'm not going to roll that around. So this is not the solution for that application. The SIMpull Reel is going to be if you're inside on a concrete floor or a hard surface, the SIMpull Reel is going to be the easiest and best way for you to be able to take that wire that you have, get it unloaded off the truck and roll it easily through that building and get it right up to your pull point and make your wire pull. So again, if you're out in the mud and the dirt, now you got options to use this. If we leave it on a truck and you pull off a truck with this, works fine, but we're not going to set these out in the mud and the dirt. These are going to be for hard surfaces, indoor applications. All right, so let's kind of talk about how these are going to arrive to your job site and how you're going to make good use of them. Well, first off, the reel is going to come to you from our distributors, and it's going to be in a cradle, as you see here, right? So the way this is going to work, Southwire owns the SIMpull Reels. We lease these reels on an annual basis to our Southwire partner distributors, along with the cradles. The cradles can either be purchased or leased. The distributor then will lease these reels to the electrical contractor on a daily basis, right? And is it free? No, there's a charge. There's a small charge for using these SIMpull Reels. But what you end up with is this is a far safer method of moving wire, and it's going to save you a whole lot of time and effort and labor, and it's going to be a lot safer. I mean, nobody wants to handle heavy reels of wire out on the job site. This is going to make it a whole lot safer. Your electrical distributor is going to be a full partner of Southwire and is going to have all the resources of Southwire at their disposal. They're going to be able to take this reel and put the wire on it for you and do the parallels and the stacks and pre-install pulling heads and all the things that we do. So if you've got a job coming out, reach out to your distributor, the Southwire distributor in your area, and make the plan for these reels. If you got a project coming up and you say, look, I've got some wire pulls happening in a couple of months or 3 months down the road, and I want to make sure I've got these reels and use them. I'm telling you, if you wait till the day before you need them, good chance these reels are not going to be at that distributor. They're going to be out on the job site somewhere. So what you want to do when you start that project, and we talk a lot about pre-construction, about moving your planning on wire to the front end of the project. So reach out to your distributor and make that plan of that wire, your parallels and stacks and your heads on the wire, and make that plan so that those reels are going to be there for you when you need them, and that wire is going to be in inventory and you're not delayed on your job site. I think today we currently have around 1,000 of these around North America that's at your disposal. And again, if you don't know a distributor that handles it, reach out to someone at Southwire or your agent, and we can help you with that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how this works. The cradle has fork tunnels on all four sides. It makes it real easy for the distributor to load these things up. This reel is captive on that cradle for shipping. So that's the purpose of the cradle, to get that to your job site, load it up and get it to your job site. When you get to the job site, you're going to have a method to unload them. okay? And in that planning process, you got to know what this is going to weigh. You're going to know how much wire is on here. And by the way, we can load up to about 6,000 pounds of wire on this reel. A lot of cases, you're more limited by the volume of wire than you are the weight, but you can get up to 6,000 pounds of wire on this reel. So that's a lot of wire, and you can do the parallels and stacks on these things. So make that plan when these things hit your job site that you've got a forklift or you got a lull, you've got something that you can put forks under this thing and pick it up and set it down on that hard surface to roll this reel around. Okay, so we're going to do that. The first thing we're going to do when it comes to you from your distributor, you don't want this thing jumping off the truck when it's going down the road, right? So in this cradle, you have a pin down here. And that pin's going to keep that reel in that cradle going down the highway. So when you get to your job site, that's and you get this thing unloaded off the truck, that's the first thing you want to do is pull that pin so you can get the reel out. There's one on the other side. So let's step around to the front of the reel. And we're at the job site. We've got the reel unloaded, and we're ready to take the reel out of the cradle. First thing we do, we've got a pin over here. We're gonna pull the pin. We're gonna swing the captive arm out of the way. This reel's gonna roll. You notice it's almost rolling on its own. Rolls out of the cradle very easily. So now you can see I can move this thing around the job site anywhere I want it. And I'm going to reach back and kick this back so I don't trip over it. Okay, so now I've got this thing ready to roll across the floor to my pull point and make my wire pull. And you'll notice here that the two flanges spin independently of each other, just like a wheelchair or just like anything that has wheels that aren't connected. This also allows the wire on the center drum of the reel, which spins independent of the flanges, that's going to let that wire now be able to turn independently, okay? So when I'm rolling this reel, I'm not having to overcome the inertia of that wire. That wire is kind of resting, and you see as I roll it, the wire is not moving. It's just staying in place. So I'm not having to overcome the weight of that wire, which makes it easy to move, which makes it where one person can move it. Now, a couple things that you want to know about this reel when you're on a job site with it. As you see, this thing rolls very, very easily, right? When you get it off the cradle, you're going to want to make sure that you're on a level surface. If you get on an incline and you've got 4,000 or 5,000 pounds of weight right here, this thing's going to get away from you. So make sure you're on a level surface. Make sure you've got that plan on how you're going to move it. Also, make sure you got a clear line of path to get to where you're going. This thing's not going to roll easily over rocks and anything that happen to be on the floor, okay? So, again, you can see this thing spins in place very easily. If you were doing that with a wooden reel, how would you do it? With a wooden reel, you'd be probably running an axle through this thing, through the wooden reel, and you'd probably have 3 or 4 strong back guys on the job, and you'd be trying to turn that reel. That's where the safety aspect is so much better on the SIMpull Reel. 1 or 2 people can move this thing into place very easily and not cause an issue, as opposed to the wooden reels. Okay. The other thing that is special about this is, if you've ever been in the field pulling wire, you end up with, in the old way, with wooden spools of wire. If I've got 4 or 5 spools of wire, these electrical rooms are tight. You don't have room inside that electrical room to set up these wooden reels. So typically what happens is electricians will set up the reels outside in the hallway or outside the electrical room. They'll set up these wooden reels, and then now I've got to have manpower. I've got to have electricians to pick that wire up and literally put it on their shoulder and carry it into that electrical room. Okay? So you've got, and I've seen this happen so many times in the past, you've got 4 or 5 guys trying to carry this wire in the electrical room. It's dangerous, it's unsafe, people get their shoulders injured, their knees. We don't want to do that. The SIMpull Reel will fit through a 36-inch cased out doorway. So I can take this reel, roll it right into my electrical room, and roll it right up to the pull point. Not only get it in the room, but we tell folks with the methods that we have now, we've got to change that paradigm. We've got to make a paradigm shift away from setting these reels way out away from the pull point. We want to get this thing right up close to the pull point. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. That lets that reel sit in place. Nobody has to manage the reel as the wire is being pulled, okay? All right, so let's roll this into our imaginary electrical room, and we have a panel over here. We're going to set this up in front of the panel, and we're going to look at a couple things. I'm going to spin it where you can see the side of our reel here. Okay, and you'll see here there are a couple of things. When you start pulling wire, after this is chalked in place, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and chalk it just to show you how we do it. In this case, I've got a magnetic chalk. I'm going to go ahead and put it here, and I'm going to take this one, go to the other side, and I'll chalk it here. Okay, and I would put 2 more on the other side, and this reel is not going to go anywhere. So when I'm ready to pull, I'll chalk it in place, and that's going to keep that reel from moving as I'm making my wire pull. Okay, when you're making that pull, you're going to be able to pull faster than you have before with this reel. So why not take advantage of that? But because this spins so easily, if the wire puller stops, there's an opportunity for this reel to overspool, to keep spinning. And we want to stop that from happening. So on the reel, we have a brake. This brake is set, when you get it to your job site, this brake is going to be tightened down. This brake prevents this center drum from spinning. That's going to be tight, and you want it that way. We don't want this wire turning during transport. So when you unload it with your forklift or well, and you get it on that concrete surface, first thing you're going to do is you want to loosen this brake all the way off. Okay, that lets that reel spin. It's going to make it easy for you to move that wire, and you're not having to turn the inertia of that wire. Okay. The other thing that's going to allow you to do is if you get set in place and you start making a pull, and your reel begins to overspool with you, I can use this as a deterrent, a brake. Set a little bit of pressure on that brake. It will keep that reel from continuing to spin if the wire pull stops. Now, this is not a brake intended to keep the wire from falling. If you're pulling down, do not use this brake for holding it back. That's not the intent of that device. Okay? All right. So again, it's going to come to you with the pre-installed pulling heads and stacks and parallels, so you can set this reel down in front of the panel and pull out 2 or 3 or 4 feeders off that reel. All right. One last thing I'm going to show you here is where we would set it up for a panel. So I'm going to remove my chocks for a second, put them back in the holder. And by the way, some reels that we have will have the rubber magnetic chocks. Some will have a different style chalk, but you'll have 4 of them with that reel, work the same way. They're held in place magnetically. They're not going to go anywhere. So let's remove our chocks. And from a safety standpoint, don't roll this over your foot, certainly. So let's go over here to our panel. I'm going to turn my back to you here and take it over to the panel. And I'm going to probably move it sideways so you can kind of see here. Okay. And I want to get this reel up fairly close to my pull point. You see I have a panel on the wall here. So I'm going to set it probably 2 or 3 feet away from that panel. I'm going to grab my chocks and chalk it in place. I will put the 4 chocks on it, and I'm ready to pull. Okay. In this situation, I've got an overhead pull. With the wire this close, do I want the wire coming off the top of the reel, or do I want the wire coming off the bottom of the reel? Well, electricians all their lives have set the wire way out away from the pull point. They always come across the top because that's the way you want it. But with a SIMpull Reel getting close to the pull point, if I'm going in an overhead pull, why not have the wire come off the bottom of the reel and go up top? So if I get in the room and my wire's the wrong way, it's not a problem. Take my chalk loose and literally spin it in place. Now I've got the wire coming off the reel in the way I want it. And I'm up close to my panel. So I'm going to pop my chalk back on it here. Let's put one back on the other side here. Again, I'd put all 4 chalks on it. And now I'm ready to pull. Make that wire pull. When you're done, roll SIMpull Reel back out, put it on the cradle, off your job, and you're good to go. So to kind of recap, this is one of the best ways to handle that wire on a job site. Get you close to the pull point. It's much safer, makes it easier to pull the wire. So with that said, we're going to shift gears on you, and we're going to turn it over to my counterpart, Joe Fawcett, out on the West Coast. And we're going to talk about our flanges.
Thanks, Johnny. All right, so we're going to talk about the flanges. Flanges bring you pretty much most of the capabilities that the SIMpull Reel has to your wooden reels that you have on a job site. When we're looking at reel handling, we're talking about safety. That's imperative for everything we do. And also we're looking at eliminating some pieces, right? Once you put the flange on a reel, this behaves as one piece. I don't need the axle. I don't need the set of reel jacks. And then what we're looking to really do is add that maneuverability to the reel. Like Johnny said, you see all sorts of kind of atrocities in moving wooden reels with axles, a bunch of people, putting a 10-foot piece of conduit in the arbor, trying to tweak that reel to make a turn, or putting plastic down on the floor, or doing all kinds of crazy things. And it's real tough a lot of times outside a closet. The hallway might already be framed, right? So you just don't have that room to maneuver that reel. So what the flange does, you can purchase these. So the contractor has them. They're under their own control. They're not kind of needing to worry about coordinating a lot with the distributor. And they're getting their standard wooden reels. All right. The flanges come mounted on their own little handling device. The idea is each flange weighs just about 50 pounds. That's kind of that magic number we're always bringing up for safe handling for one person, right? There are a couple adjustments on it. I'm not going to actually physically do it, but I'll point them out to you. We have this controls the arbor. So there's an arbor that goes inside the arbor hole on a spool, and as you crank it up, it expands and locks itself into that arbor hole. All right. The other thing you have here is the height adjustment. So you would lower this down to be centered on the reel height when it's sitting on the ground, get that arbor caught, and then you're going to jack it back up to raise that wooden reel off of the ground. All right. Just like the big reel, you have the chocks are magnetically attached. It also comes with the wrench that can tighten those magnetically attached, but you can also use a cordless drill, not an impact driver, but a cordless drill to operate these. We're recommending if you're using that cordless drill, you want to set the clutch on that so you don't kind of over torque anything, or when it grips down tight, it might twist that drill on you. So you want to make sure you're operating safely there. All right. Now, what we're talking about doing, again, is just giving the wooden reels the maneuverability that you would have with the SIMpull Reel. These install relatively quickly on a job. It might take you a minute, 2 minutes each side. Once you're done with it, you can then take it off and move it on to whatever next reel is in your pull. Some other big points, again, the reel is going to independently rotate. So we're eliminating that inertia of the wire. It allows us to roll it right up to the panel, get it in place. Like Johnny was giving you all those good details and those tips on, using kind of that memory of the wire coming off the spool, that curvature of the wire, depending upon whether you're pulling up or down, to make your pull as easy as possible. Some other things to think about are if you're on a job that has a highly polished or highly finished floor, we do also offer a set of fabric sleeves that will wrap around this to prevent any scuffing on a floor. It will fit reels up to 2,000 pounds. It can handle up to 2,000 pounds, 34-inch diameter reel, which is going to be, kind of the bulk of wooden reels you're handling on your job site. It's sort of like our quick jacks. This will handle kind of 80% of the things you're doing on a job site. It will also, as long as that reel is less than 32 inches in width, it will also fit you through that 36-inch doorway that you need on the electrical closet. Again, really to just get us up against that panel as close as possible, trying to eliminate handling that wire out from the corridor into the panel and making it so those folks aren't throwing weight on their back to get that wire into place. So realistically, large poles, time to plan ahead. The SIMpull Reel is going to be the ticket, right? Like Johnny said, that's got up to 6,000 pounds. But for your smaller poles, smaller reels, The flanges give you the capabilities of the SIMpull Reel, but it's job installable, field installable. It's reusable. You can take it from one spool to the next once you're done with the pole. It does come with its own kind of little thing it mounts on with a handle to make it easy to maneuver around to wherever you're going to use it. And really the key point again is we're eliminating the need for that axle, the need for that jacks, and kind of really torquing you back as you're trying to turn it into a corridor or trying to lift it up onto real jacks if those jacks aren't the right jacks for the size. All right, so that's kind of the quick overview. Johnny went to great detail on a SIMpull Reel, and most of the functionality is the same. All right, if you have any questions, we're looking through the chat. The folks on, if you're watching on YouTube, you can put in the comments, and Beth's gonna read those questions out to us. So far, I haven't seen anything come in chat. While people are kind of have a moment to get those questions in, later on today, Bill Fowler is going to be going over the properties of voice data and electronic cables. At 3 o'clock, we'll be doing that live also. So some good information on those cable types that don't always enter into our normal presentations. All right. And also, like we're always saying, is that planning is imperative. Think of what you can do ahead of time to eliminate that handling on a job. Do we need, how many reels can we eliminate by paralleling the wires? How many more reels can we eliminate by stacking them? We put the heads on a wire, we're taking that box cutter in hand. We're always thinking about that kind of safety. So far, I haven't seen any questions come in. Beth, has anything come in through YouTube?
No, Joe, I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
So far.
All right. And then just kind of like one other thing to be thinking about is there are lots of similarities from job to job, but each job kind of has its unique quirks and situations. So that's why we kind of implore you to get with our local agents, distributors. We have our contractor equipment specialists. We have our contractor solution specialists that can really look at your particular job and make recommendations and kind of look at what you got going on there to see what the ideal solution is going to be, right? We're always looking at that total solution. So if no questions have come in, I think we're just going to go ahead and say goodbye, and we'll catch you this afternoon.